Hello, in most of the web applications there are several pages, right? So it is not only the landing page but also some pages we have in our applications. So let's see how we can manage those kind of routings between different pages, and not only the navigating between those pages but also reading some parameters from the URLs of those pages. So I added an empty routes module here, and I already started my application. I can see it here. It's just an empty page right now because I don't have any component inside. So let's start adding something like, for example, I can add a link here. Let's add, for example, a link. Okay. It should address a page. For example, let's say it would be like about page. This is my first link, so let's see what happens to my application after I add this component. I get an error. It says that if I try to use this kind of links, I need a router component. So let's try to wrap this with a router component. Okay, how about now? Okay, now I have a link, right? It is, my text is about and it goes to about page. Let's click here. Okay, now I can see it is going to the about page. Very cool. But if I want to handle these kind of page changes, because even if I click here, nothing changes, right, on the page. But normally, of course, the context of the page should change, because if we are going to a new page, this is what is supposed to be done, right? The context should change or update. So let's try to see how we can manage those kind of page changes. So at this point, we need a root. So let's add root. Okay. And we should capture the path. I already see the auto completion item here. It would be, for example, about. If I'm on the about page, then what can I do? Like, for example, I can add an element here. And then I guess I can already close the root here. So let's try to do that. And for example here, let's return a paragraph element. I don't need a return here. This is the element which would return on this about page. Let's see what will happen now. A root is only ever to be used as the child of roots. Okay, if I'm defining a root, then I need the roots parent element or component. So let's add the roots here. All right, is it okay now? Yes, if I'm on the landing page, okay, there is nothing, but if I go to the about page, okay, I'm on the about page. So generally we can add a landing page which is without any extension like this. Like if I'm just on the main page of my application, this is generally the home page, right? So let's add a home page here, and we can add another route for the home page. For example, if it is like this, let's say welcome to my app. Cool. Home page, welcome to my app. About, we are on the about page. Very cool. So these are the routes. And then let's see how to capture the parameters from the URL of the pages. For example, let's say I want to go to some, generally the parameters that we want to capture from the URL is IDs, right? So let's try to add some ID. For example, what can it be? Like if it's a job seeking platform, for example, I can search through the jobs. For example, jobs. Let's go to job with ID 1. Let's go to jobs with ID number 2. Okay. Cool. Yes, job 1 and job 2 are here, but I don't have anything yet. So let's add the routes. But now what I'm trying to do is I will read 1 or 2. I will read the ID of the job that I want to show on the page. So I need to capture the ID, right? So what I'll do is, again, I'll add a route here. With a very slight change, in which again it will be like this, user, but then I need the ID, right? It can be either 1 or 2 or maybe anything else. So this will be my variable. So I just write in this format. So this is my variable. Not user, it was jobs, right? Jobs. And let's show, for example, let's write a function for this. Let's say job page. But of course I need a function here, so let's create it. Now it's here. Let's return something for now. Okay, I have job 1 here. I click. Okay, everything is working, nothing is broken yet, but I'm showing something. But what I want to show is something related to the ID of the job, right? So let's try to do that. So what I can do is, as we already learned in JSX part of the React, I can use the state transition diagram, right? So let's use them. So let's say I want to show the job and I need a function to update the state of the job. Let's use state for that. And normally I can return this job. Home page, about, job 1, job 2. Okay, I cannot see anything because I am returning job, but I did not set job to anything yet because I didn't use the set job at all. So let's add that too. But again, use that depending on the job ID. So to update this job, I will use the set job function, and how I can use it is I'll use effect. Again, in the previous lessons we saw we can use either once or maybe after each render of the page, or depending on the change of some variables. So what I'll do here is, for example, if it is like this, if I set job to, for example, let's say dummy job, now I can already see dummy job here, right? Because home page is like this, about is like this, job 1 and job 2, they're both showing dummy job because they are running only once. The dependency list is empty. But what I want to do is, whenever the link is updated here, the parameter is updated, I want to run this set job function. So what I need here is the dependency list should include the job ID. We said this is my variable, right? So this is the ID. ID is my variable. I can already see that it is recognized as a variable. And of course, I don't want to update this with always dummy job, with always a static value, but with the value of the variable itself. So how I can do that is, I can just pass the user ID, right? The job ID. I think everything is ready, but still it knows it should be a variable, but it doesn't know what ID is, right? So somehow we should let the framework know that it is the ID captured from the URL. So for that, the magic should come from useParams hook, which is another very useful hook of React. So we should define the job ID, this ID, as the parameter captured from the URL, because from the URL the framework already knows that it is the parameter or the variable after jobs extension. So if we are on the page jobs/1 or /2, the ID would be the parameter at the very end of the URL. So if we let the framework know that this ID is that part, the extension at the very end of the URL, by using useParams, then ID would be recognized and would be passed to update the context of the job, which is shown after this change. Let's see. On page about job 1, IC1, job 2, IC2. Cool. So let's summarize. The key things here is we already know how to use the state transition, and we already use how to use effect to call the seller functions with some dependencies. So the only difference here is we added already some links. This is okay, this is just addressing to some new page, but the roots are something new that we just saw. And from the roots, normally we can just show some static context, but also we can capture the variables with a very slight change here. And then after capturing this variable, we can use it in the functions that we use to update the context by using useParams hook. So this is the very basic demonstration of using roots and capturing the parameters from the URLs.